We can avoid riots, but that we will be as militant and as determined next summer and through the winter.
We all know Martin Luther King Jr., civil rights leader of the 60s, who, on one hand, preached the social gospel.
A Negro woman was arrested, Mrs. Rosa Parks.
I work as a seamstress in a department store. After working all day, I was very tired. I got the bus to go home, and after I had taken a seat on the bus, the driver demanded that I give this seat up for a white man. I refused to give up this seat. I said no, and I wouldn't give it up.
The word got around the Montgomery community, and there was a spontaneous reaction. The Negro citizens decided not to ride the buses until these conditions were changed. They asked me to serve as a spokesman and the president of the Montgomery Improvement Association, and from this time, I found myself in a leadership position in the civil rights struggle.
But you may have never heard of his contemporary, Joseph H. Jackson, who, on this hand, he preached the gospel of Christ.
Those of us who are Christians, we don't believe that you can have a theory of God based on color.
Jackson was the president of the National Baptist Convention.
Now, not only did they differ in what they preached, they also differed in how they took action. Now, both men were highly admired, and they were both sincere in what they were doing. So MLK, his thing was to gather people together and fortify a movement that would press the government to give black people what they wanted.
Well, I would say this: we don't have long. The mood of the Negro community now is one of urgency, one of saying that we aren't going to wait, that we've got to have our freedom. We've waited too long. So that I would say that every summer we are going to have this kind of vigorous protest. My hope is that it will be nonviolent. I would hope that we can avoid riots, because riots are self-defeating and socially destructive. I would hope that we can avoid riots, but that we will be as militant and as determined next summer and through the winter as we have been this summer. And I think the answer about how long it will take will depend on the federal government, on the city halls of our various cities, and on white America to a large extent.
Joseph H. Jackson, he wasn't into pressing the government. He was into bringing people together in his congregation. I've heard that he had like millions, maybe 5 million people in his congregation. Whew, that's crazy. But he would bring people together and he would collect money from these people to help the poor. Now, he did something that I consider to be very heroic to really help. There were sharecroppers at that time who were really doing bad, not being able to support their families. And what he did for them and what the people in his congregation did for them was, I would say, highly remarkable. Check this out.
When I look at Joseph H. Jackson, he argued that to the extent that the white man doesn't give you a job, it's incumbent upon you to build your own businesses and to hire your brother and your sister and your neighbor, that you aren't begging someone else for a job. And so he didn't only talk about this, but he exemplified this. There were a bunch of sharecroppers in the South who were getting cheated. Jackson was the president of the National Baptist Convention. The convention bought 400 acres of farmland in the South. They allowed these black sharecroppers to work the land for free. And to the extent that they raised money for their crops, they got to keep and pocket that money so long as they were saving that money to buy their own farmland, so they can move from sharecroppers to farmers and not have to depend on anybody else for their daily bread. The convention, under the behest of Jackson, did many of these things.